It was the summer of 2011, and I was 24, fresh out of college, with a beat-up Honda Civic and a burning need to see the world, or at least the backroads of the American Midwest. I'd been driving for hours through rural Nebraska, the kind of place where the fields stretch so far you start to forget what civilization looks like. Corn on one side, soybeans on the other, and not a single gas station for miles. My phone had no signal, the GPS was useless, and the only thing keeping me company was a playlist of 90s grunge I'd burned onto a CD. It was around 2 a.m., and I was fighting to keep my eyes open when I saw her. She was standing on the side of the road, thumb out, a pale figure in a white dress that looked almost ghostly under my headlights. I slowed down, heart pounding. Not because I was scared, but because you don't just leave someone stranded in the middle of nowhere. She looked young, maybe 20, with long dark hair and a small backpack slung over one shoulder. I rolled down my window, and she leaned in, her face soft but tired. "Can you give me a lift to the next town?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, almost drowned out by the crickets. I nodded, and she climbed into the passenger seat. Her name was Lily, she said. She didn't talk much, just told me she was heading to a place called Red Oak, about 30 miles west. I figured I'd drop her off and keep going. The weird thing was, she didn't seem to care about the silence. Most hitchhikers I'd picked up before would ramble to fill the void, but Lily just stared out the window, her hands folded in her lap. I tried making small talk, where she was from, what she was doing out here, but she'd only give short answers. "Just traveling," she'd say, or "I needed to get away." Fair enough, I thought. Not everyone wants to spill their life story to a stranger. About 20 minutes in, I noticed something odd. The air in the car felt heavy, like the kind of pressure you get before a storm. My dashboard lights flickered just for a second, and the radio cut to static. I glanced at Lily, but she didn't react, just kept staring out into the dark. I chalked it up to my old car acting up, but then I saw it, a road sign for Red Oak, 10 miles ahead. Relief washed over me. I'd drop her off soon and get back to my drive. That's when Lily spoke, out of nowhere. "You ever feel like you're being watched?" Her voice was different now, sharper, like she was testing me. I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking, but when I looked over, her eyes were locked on me, not blinking, just staring. My stomach twisted. Not really," I said, gripping the wheel tighter. She didn't smile, didn't look away. "You should," she said. "They're always watching." I didn't know what to say to that. The road was empty, just us and the endless fields, but her words sent a chill down my spine. I tried to focus on driving, but the air felt thicker now, like I was breathing through a wet cloth. The dashboard lights flickered again, longer this time, and the engine sputtered. I cursed under my breath, glancing at Lily, who was back to staring out the window like nothing had happened. "You okay?" I asked, more to break the tension than anything else. She didn't answer. We reached Red Oak around 2:45 a.m. It was a ghost town, dark houses, closed shops, not a soul in sight. I pulled over near a shuttered gas station. "This is it, right?" I said, turning to her. But the passenger seat was empty. No Lily, no backpack. The door hadn't opened, the seatbelt was still buckled, and there was no way she could have gotten out without me noticing. My heart was hammering now. I checked the back seat, the floor, even popped the trunk. Nothing. She was gone. I sat there, engine idling, trying to make sense of it. Had I imagined her? No. I could still smell the faint floral scent of her perfume. My hands were shaking as I got back on the road, driving faster than I should have. When I finally hit a town with a signal, I looked up Red Oak. That's when I found it, an old newspaper article from 2003. A girl named Lily Harper, 19, had died in a car accident on that same stretch of highway. The photo showed her in a white dress, long dark hair, just like the girl I'd picked up. The article said she'd been hitchhiking, trying to get to Red Oak to meet her sister when a drunk driver hit her. She didn't make it. I don't know what I saw that night, but I know it wasn't human. I haven't driven that highway since, and I never will again. Every time I close my eyes, I see her staring at me saying, "They're always watching." And sometimes when I'm driving alone at night, I still feel it, like something's in the car with me, just out of sight. It was 2014, and I was on a cross-country road trip with my best friend, Mike. We were 28, chasing adventure, and had been driving from California to New York in a rented RV. We'd hit Nevada, cruising through the desert on a 2-lane road that felt like it went on forever. The sun was setting, painting the sky blood red, and we were starving. We hadn't seen a town in hours, just sand and scrub brush, so when we spotted a neon sign flickering in the distance, Maggie's Diner, open 24/7. It felt like a miracle. The place looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1950s. Red vinyl booths, checkered floors, and a jukebox in the corner playing some old Elvis tune. A waitress, maybe 60, with a name tag that read Maggie, greeted us with a tired smile. "Sit anywhere, boys," she said, handing us menus. The diner was empty, except for a trucker at the counter, hunched over a cup of coffee. Mike and I slid into a booth, ordered burgers and fries, and started joking about how this place was straight out of a Stephen King novel. The food came fast, and it was good. Too good for a random diner in the middle of nowhere. Maggie kept our coffee cups filled, making small talk about the weather and asking where we were headed. She had this way of looking at you, though, like she was studying you, her eyes lingering a little too long. I brushed it off. Long hours on the road make you paranoid. But then Mike nudged me under the table and whispered, "You see that guy at the counter? He hasn't moved since we got here." I glanced over. The trucker was still there, head down, coffee untouched. His hands were folded on the counter, and something about his posture felt wrong, like he was posed, not sitting naturally. I told Mike he was being dramatic, but I couldn't shake the feeling either. The jukebox switched to another song, but it was the same Elvis track from before, looping. I checked my phone. No signal, of course. The air in the diner felt stale, like the windows hadn't been opened in years. Maggie came back to clear our plates, and I noticed her hands, pale, almost gray, with veins that stood out like road maps. "You boys sticking around?" she asked, her voice sweet but with an edge I couldn't place. Mike, always the bold one, laughed and said, "Nah, we gotta keep moving. Big Apple's calling." Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes did. They went cold, like we'd insulted her. "Road's dangerous at night," she said. "Best stay here till morning." We ignored the warning, paid our bill, and headed back to the RV. The desert air was cool now, the stars brighter than I'd ever seen. But as we walked to the parking lot, I realized something. There were no other cars, not a single one. The trucker's rig, Maggie's car, anything, nothing. Just our RV, sitting alone under the neon glow. Mike noticed it too. "Where the hell's everyone parked?" he muttered. We climbed into the RV, locked the doors, and started the engine. That's when I saw it in the rearview mirror. Maggie, standing at the diner's entrance, just watching us. Not moving, not waving, just staring. I hit the gas, and we peeled out onto the highway. My heart was racing, and Mike was quiet, which wasn't like him. "That place was messed up," he finally said. "Did you see the menu? It had our names on it." I thought he was joking, but he pulled out a napkin he'd grabbed from the table. Sure enough, scrawled in faint ink at the bottom of the diner's logo, "Mike and Chris, Table 7. My blood ran cold. We hadn't told Maggie our names. We drove in silence for an hour, the diner's neon sign fading into the distance. When we finally hit a gas station with a signal, I looked up Maggie's Diner. Nothing. No reviews, no address, no trace it ever existed. The next morning, we stopped at a different diner, a chain place with families and noise. I asked the cashier if she'd heard of Maggie's. Her face went pale. "You mean the old place off Route 50?" she said. "It burned down in '92. Owner died in the fire. People say it still shows up sometimes, but no one who stops there stays long." She wouldn't say more, but the look in her eyes told me she knew something she wasn't sharing. Mike and I never talked about it after that. We finished our trip, but the open road never felt the same. Sometimes, late at night, I'll hear that Elvis song in my head, and I'll check my rearview mirror, half expecting to see Maggie standing there, watching. It was December 2017. I was driving through Oregon's Cascade Mountains, heading toward a secluded cabin I'd rented for the weekend. No friends, no work, no phone calls, just silence. After a brutal year at the advertising firm where I worked, My mind felt like a frayed wire ready to snap. I needed this escape, this solitude, or so I thought. The forecast had mentioned patchy fog, but nothing too serious. I figured my Jeep could handle whatever the mountain threw at me. By the time I hit the forest road around 9 p.m., that confidence had vanished. The fog had thickened into a white abyss. It wasn't just heavy. It was unnatural, like someone had poured a bucket of milk into the air. My headlights reflected back at me, blinding me instead of helping. I slowed to a crawl, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The trees on either side were just silhouettes, vanishing and reappearing in flickers. My nerves were shot. I considered pulling over, but the road was too narrow, and there was no shoulder, just the whisper of trees and a dark drop-off into God knows what. Then I saw them. At first, I thought they were reflections, maybe road markers catching stray light, but they floated. Small, flickering orbs hovering 20 or 30 yards ahead. They shimmered blue, then green, then red, glowing faintly through the thick fog. Not headlights, not fireflies. They looked like something alive. I eased to a stop. The orbs began to move, circling each other in odd patterns. Not random either. It looked purposeful, almost like a dance. I rolled down the window to get a better look. A wave of freezing air rushed in, and with it, a strange smell. Not pine or rain or earth. It smelled metallic, like rusted iron or blood. I instinctively pulled my jacket tighter, but the cold wasn't just in the air. It was inside me, burrowing under my skin. I squinted through the fog. The lights were closer now, 10 yards, maybe less, and something was wrong, very wrong. They weren't floating anymore. They were moving forward, weaving, gliding, like they had intention. Drones, I thought. That had to be it, but there was no sound, no whirring blades, no buzzing, just silence. So complete, so thick, it pressed against my eardrums like a vacuum. That's when the hum began. At first it was faint, like the low drone of a distant choir, but it wasn't music, it wasn't mechanical. It was something else, almost human, but off. Voices layered over one another, rising and falling without words. I reached for my phone to record it, but the screen was black, not out of battery, dead. I pressed the power button again and again. Nothing. Panic began to creep in. The orbs were no longer orbs. They had changed, shifted into shapes. Tall, too tall, thin like shadows stretched by a dying sun. Limbs that bent where they shouldn't. Movement that stuttered and twitched in ways that didn't follow the laws of motion. I tried to start the car. The engine sputtered, stalled. I slammed my hand on the dashboard. Nothing. The hum outside grew louder, vibrating through the steel of the Jeep. I could feel it in my bones, in my teeth, rattling something deep inside me I didn't know could shake. Then, they were there, right at my window. Shapes, no, figures, humanoid, but all wrong. Their skin, or what looked like skin, was grayish-white, stretched taut over sharp bones. No eyes, just smooth sockets and mouths that moved silently, as if whispering things I couldn't hear. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. For a second, just 1 second, I felt calm. A strange, deceptive stillness, like they were pulling me into something, inviting me. And I leaned forward, just a little. Then instinct roared back like fire. I threw the car into reverse. The engine coughed, stalled. I turned the key again, and by some miracle, it roared to life. I didn't look back. I floored it, tires spinning wildly on the slick mountain road. In my rearview mirror, I saw them. The lights were chasing me, not just following, keeping up, weaving effortlessly through the fog, slipping between trees, gliding like predators. No footsteps, no sounds. Just that humming, growing louder, like it was inside my skull now. I didn't know where I was going. My GPS was frozen, my phone still dead. I just drove. 10 minutes, 20, an hour. Time was meaningless in that thick, white world. All I knew was that eventually, mercifully, the fog began to thin. The lights faded with it. I hit pavement. A town. Real streetlights. I pulled into the first gas station I saw, slammed the car into park, and just sat there, shaking, sweating, crying. The hum was gone, but I still felt it echoing in my bones. At dawn, I finally checked my phone. It powered on like nothing had happened, battery full, no issues. But when I opened my camera roll, I found something strange. My last photo, the one I'd taken of the fog just before the lights appeared, had a corrupted timestamp, December 2nd, 1973. Later that morning, I told a local police officer what I'd seen. I expected him to laugh. He didn't. His face went pale. He told me I wasn't the first. Hikers disappear in those mountains. Cars vanish without a trace. And the ones who return, they don't talk about it. Not really. He said if I was smart, I'd never drive that road again, especially in winter, especially in fog. I never made it to the cabin. I never went back. And now, whenever I see fog rolling in, especially at night, I stay inside. But sometimes, even behind closed doors, I'll see a flicker of red or blue light outside my window. And when the world goes quiet, really quiet, I swear I hear that hum again, calling me back.